Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Think rolling over your 401k is easy?
You can do it. Oh, yay! Good job!
Not so fast, partner.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with your host, five-time author and fiduciary, the money missionary himself, Tony Walker.
One of the most valuable assets savers possess is their 401k plan. Maybe that's you. Maybe you've spent all your life saving your hard-earned money into your company-provided 401k plan till hopefully at some magical day, that day arrives when you are ready to retire or arrive at what I call halftime. That's the period of time where you're almost ready to retire and you're thinking, boy, I wish I could go on and retire now. But anyway, it's a very, very crucial decision to make the final determination of when to roll over your 401k, and more importantly, who in the heck you're going to roll it over to anyway. So there you are, you've saved all of your life, and then you get to that point in life where you want to enjoy the fruits of your labor. In fact, I like to say there's two phases in life. There's the people at work, that you and I working hard and saving hard, and then all of a sudden we retire or slow down or go part-time or whatever, and the capital, that in this example is the 401k, now has to begin working for us. But there's a problem. You know that you only have one shot to get this 401k rollover right. Well, welcome to the WorryFree Retirement. I am your host, 401k rollover specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And on today's show, regardless of whether you have $50,000 to invest that's sitting in a 401k or maybe $5 million, I'm going to share with you the 7 biggest misconceptions that savers make when it comes to understanding how best to roll over one's 401k plan. Now, let's get something straight. A 401k plan is what we refer to in this business as a qualified plan. A qualified plan, as opposed to non-qualified savings plans or investing, is actually a plan that receives special treatment from the government in terms of how the plan is going to be taxed. Now, I speak to savers who sometimes get really confused with the government acronyms that are associated with all these different 401k accounts, or what we call qualified accounts, because really a lot of accounts are thrown into the mix of 401ks, but they're called different things. For instance, a 401k plan might also be referred to as a 403b plan. It could be referred to as a 457 plan, a thrift savings account, or simply an individual IRA. Also, there's a qualified account known as a Roth IRA, and we're not going to get into the details there, but all of these, again, are qualified accounts given special tax treatment by the federal government. So don't let all these different acronyms confuse you. Basically, there's only 2 types of accounts. Ones that are pre-tax, meaning you do not pay any taxes on the front end, but rather you pay taxes on the back end. That's when you go to take the money out. And then there's accounts which are called after tax, which would be, for instance, the Roth IRA, whereby you pay the taxes now, and then when you take it out down the road, there are no taxes due. Well, in my 34 years of experience in the 401k trenches, one thing I've learned, and it's very important to understand this, is the government is giving you a tax break, which means if the government's involved in it, it can be very, very confusing and very, very complicated. And lastly, if you do the wrong thing, if you don't get this stuff right, it could be very, very punitive to unsuspecting savers who rush out and roll over their 401ks into other accounts, particularly with other financial advisors or financial institutions. So before I share the 7 most common misconceptions regarding 401k rollovers, I want to go back to that opening video of that little baby rolling around, and that was the first time that baby rolled around, because I know this because that was a video of my brand new granddaughter Scout. Now, if you'll notice, as Scout's kind of sitting up there trying to figure out what to do, it takes quite a bit of effort for Scout to figure out how to roll over. This was the first time, my daughter got this on film, this is the first time Scout had ever even attempted a rollover. But if you'll notice here, it takes a little effort, but the effort to roll over her body from the front side to the back side is difficult again. And then when she does get there, due to her young age, she has no ability to roll back over. She's just kind of laying there. But the good news for Scout is this is not her first shot at rolling over. As she gets older and bigger and stronger, she'll be able to roll over with ease and be able to roll over multiple times. In fact, she's going to roll over a lot and probably going to be up walking. My daughter's probably going to wish she couldn't roll over because the next thing leads to crawling, then walking. We know where that goes, a lot of chasing around. But not so with you and your 401k. You see, for many of you, when you go to roll over your 401k to another institution or to another advisor, or maybe you're thinking about rolling it over to an individual retirement account, you better get something right here, and you better understand how the rules of the game work. Because in some cases, while you could possibly roll it over again, there's not a lot of do-overs right away. And I'll get into this in the next segment. In other words, if you botch this rollover and move your money into investments possibly you don't understand or that come with huge penalties or unnecessary risks, it could cost you big time. So let's just list the 7 misconceptions. And again, when we come back in our next segment, I'm going to go to some examples that are going to be very interesting. But here's misconception number 1 about 401k rollovers. Number 1, I can only roll over my 401k when I reach full retirement, for instance, age 65 or 66. In the next segment, we're going to find out, this is a biggie, that there are many opportunities to roll your 401k over into safer territory, and best of all, with a local fiduciary such as myself who can meet with you one-on-one and help strategize what to do with this 401k. Misconception number 2, a 401k rollover, Tony, I guess if I roll it over, aren't I going to have to pay an immediate 20% tax penalty? And in some cases, yes, if you send that 401k rollover check to you personally, your employer is required to withhold 20% in taxes. But a proper rollover over to what we call another qualified account, if done properly, should not have any current taxation. Misconception number 3, if the 401k is rolled over prior to 59.5, Tony, won't I incur a 10% tax penalty? Again, that's a misconception. What that's referring to is if you take money out of a 401k or IRA prior to 59.5, and even with 401ks, there's some exceptions to this, you will have a 10% tax penalty. For instance, my wife's mother, my mother-in-law recently passed away, unfortunately. Great woman, by the way. Knew that lady for, 42 years. Very sad loss. But my wife inherited her IRA, and my wife is under 59.5. So if she just liquidates that thing, not only will she have to pay taxes, but she'll incur a 10% tax penalty. So again, in some cases, no, you will not incur any penalties to roll over a 401k prior to 59.5. Another misconception, former 401k plans at previous employers cannot be rolled over prior to 59.5, which is not true. So for instance, and again, we'll talk about this in the next segment, some of you have changed jobs and you've got this old 401k languishing over there somewhere, some old job that you had, and you forgot all about it. And you thought, well, I guess I got to leave it there. Or worse yet, I got to roll that into the next 401k that I've currently got. And that is not correct. In fact, many people, and again, we have no minimum account sizes at Tony Walker Financial, but many people will call us and they say, Tony, I got an old 401k with $30,000. Can you take care of that? Absolutely. So there's no age requirements to work with us and no minimum accounts. The next misconception, never roll a 401k, I hear the pundits say this, into investments that are already tax deferred. And I would say, what does that matter? And really what they're referring to is annuities. So a lot of financial pundits who don't understand retirement planning or income planning, these financial know-it-alls out there assume because the 401k is tax deferred, why would you put an annuity, which is tax deferred, inside a tax deferred plan? It doesn't matter. The reason we put annuities in rollovers, in accounts, and we'll show you this in the next segment, is because it's the only form of mailbox money you can get. Why in the world wouldn't you want mailbox money coming out of that 401k? And we can show you how to do that. The next misconception, the fees will be less if I stay with the same institution. Bear with me here. Let's say you're with Shifting Sands of Texas, and they've got your 401k, and you retire, let's say, and then you approach them and they say, oh yeah, we'll roll that into an IRA for you. Don't move that over to Walker or some of these other people, and we'll save you a whole lot more money in fees. That, my friends, sometimes is not the case. So be very, very careful with the existing custodians, that's the people currently handling your 401k, telling you that they can do a better job and they're much cheaper if you roll the 401k into one of their IRAs. So no worries with all of this. Here's the thing. If you don't have the plan, person or investment, you just rolled your money into, or you just immediately roll it over to someone else, we're going to focus on this just for a second now. And this is where Scout comes back into the picture. Remember we said she can roll over all day long if she likes, but again, not so with a 401k. Now I'm going to show you an example of how dangerous and restrictive a poor choice can be for rollovers. I'm going to use my favorite example here of a dinner seminar. Again, let me clarify something. Although we have a lot of fun with these dinner seminars, there is nothing wrong with dinner seminars. In fact, I'm sure you can get some good information at them, and it gives people an opportunity, I guess, to get off the couch and go do something. But if we talk about a dinner seminar from a prospective client standpoint, and I see this happen a lot, not with all dinner seminars, but I've seen this because many of you come to me. There is inappropriate activity going on following the dinner seminars. And in cases with the one I'm getting ready to share with you, people are going to these dinner seminars, savers. They're getting caught up in the fact that maybe somebody's bought them dinner and they're sharing some information. They get disturbed, and that's when the squeeze gets put on. So let me share this example of something that really happened where somebody got very impatient and wanted to react very quickly to a dinner seminar. So they attended the dinner seminar and the nice lady pitching the products. Then at the following dinner seminar, this was in Bowling Green, basically she said something, according to my prospective client, something to this effect. This is the dinner seminar lady talking, I am the only person in the state of Kentucky that is set up to handle taking applications for annuities, certified in annuity paperwork or something, I never heard of such a thing, right now. So folks, if you want to start right now, we can start the paperwork now. Now folks, basically most people's food hasn't even digested yet, and apparently this lady's claiming that you've got to act now. So I said, who in the world is this? So I Googled this person. I couldn't even find a website on them, no credentials, but here are unsuspecting savers getting ready to hand over their life savings to somebody who is pressuring them to act now as if there's some hurry to all of this. So in conclusion, think about this, folks. Many of you have taken 20, 30, 40 plus years to save money for retirement. You've got this 401k out there. And what I would say is, as my dad used to say, just slow down. Let's sit down and talk about it, and let's move at your pace. And more importantly, before you make any decisions on a 401k rollover, make sure you have a game plan and make sure the advisor with the game plan puts it in writing, takes their time with you, and make sure whatever they're recommending is right for you. Well, when I come back, I'm going to get the whiteboard out. I've got an interesting scenario to share with you because a lot of people say, well, Tony, how do you all do rollovers at Tony Walker Financial? We've got a very simple process, yet very, very effective for savers. I'm going to get the whiteboard out. You stay tuned. You're watching the WorryFree Retirement. Annuities. Some people love them and some people hate them. Regardless of how you feel about annuities, one thing's for sure, annuities are the only financial product that can guarantee an income you can never outlive. I'm Tony Walker, and regardless of whether you're thinking about buying an annuity or you have a current annuity that you would like me to review, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Since 9/11, we've written over 2,500 annuities, and we can help you by getting started now.
Are you retired or retiring soon? Do you have a 401k, IRA, thrift savings account, 403b, or lump sum pension that you'd like to move to safer territory? Did you know that all the money you see on your 401k statement isn't really yours? Depending on your overall taxable income, the government has essentially a lien on your 401k that can tax as much as 40% of your money when you go to take it out. Tony Walker calls this the 401k tax tumor. For over 33 years, retirement specialist Tony Walker has helped thousands of savers worry less about money by creating game plans to deal with your tax tumor. Get control of your retirement by controlling the taxes owed on it. Schedule a free meeting to see if you can reduce your tax tumor and provide a guaranteed income you can never outlive. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement, and we're talking about the biggest misconceptions people make when rolling over a 401k plan. And folks, we are specialists in rolling 401k plans over. We've literally done hundreds of them over the years. In fact, we were talking in our office the other day. We were in a marketing meeting in our Louisville office, and America's favorite financial sidekick said, Aaron was talking about, he said, Tony, you always bring up the idea of people having major surgeries, and the example of somebody, let's say you got to have heart surgery, one time to get that right? And would you rather have a heart surgeon that's done 2,000 of these surgeries, or a guy that's right out of medical school that is going to, try it out on you to see how things go? And that's the same way with 401k rollovers, folks. You need someone who specializes in the rollover process, and more importantly, once the money gets invested, how to manage that money for the rest of your life to maximize all the benefits for you. So let me show you how we work. Now, this was what we call the ideal 401k. There's no perfect rollover scenario, but we've used this strategy for years, and for savers, it's worked very, very well. So in this example, you've got a 401k, and it doesn't matter about the money. It could be $30,000, $100,000, $400,000, it doesn't matter. But what we have to do in our first bucket, okay, the key, and this is where a lot of advisors make mistakes. A lot of people will just try to throw all your money in annuities, for instance, which could be disastrous. So what we have to have in the 401k, we have to have one bucket that is what we call liquid. We've already talked about liquidity, but basically what we want is access to our money, and we want the ability to draw out income. All right? So let's say you're 65 years of age. You roll over your 401k to our process. We put this money in our Charles Schwab platform so we can have liquidity, low fees, access, and then the income comes out. CK is your checking account. And we can set this up to send any amount you want there. We'll estimate the withholdings. If you have emergencies, you can move it over there. We do all of this for you, folks. You don't have to call a bunch of 1-800 numbers and get put on hold. We have people in our office directly accessible to you to help you immediately. And you say, well, Tony, what's that bucket over there? Well, there could be more than one bucket, but in general, this next bucket is for long-term, what we call planning, okay? Or what I like to call, eventually, this is going to be your mailbox money. So folks, in any retirement plan, there has to be a balance. There has to be a balance of access and liquidity, and then guaranteed income you could never outlive. So what we do here, we allow this to continue to accumulate. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is the beauty of our process, we manage this for you. We're managing how much money to send you, which buckets to take it out of, when to take it out, and then we manage the process. Eventually, we want to try to leave, and this is where further planning would come in, tax-free benefits. Remember, all of this has a tax tumor, folks. This 401k you think is 100% of your money, the government is licking their chops waiting to get their hands on this, and they will get it. You just wait till you turn 70 and a half, and then they'll also get it. We said earlier about my wife who is getting ready to inherit an IRA from her mother that recently passed away. She's going to have to pay taxes if she liquidates that puppy, or she's going to have to take minimum distributions, which is not that great of a deal, but that's the only option she's got. So we want to provide liquidity and access and income, which we can do. We want to provide long-term planning with mailbox money for life so you don't have the fear of running out of it. And finally, if we can, whatever's left over, we want to try to figure out a strategy now to set in motion a way to leave tax-free benefits to your beneficiaries. So this is how we work in the worry-free retirement process. You might say, Tony, that looks really good. I'd like to sit down with you and go over this. Am I eligible to do a 401k rollover? Well, Aaron, let's slide over here if we can. Let's talk about this. Who in the world can roll over a 401k? This is really important. Let's go over these steps again. So basically, if you have a prior 401k, again, let me use the example. You worked for, Shifting Sands of Texas, you move over to Mutual of Nairobi, you change employers. The 401k is still at Shifting Sands of Texas. That can be rolled over into the worry-free retirement. And again, there's no cost to roll this over whatsoever on the front end. We can do all of this for you, all right? You may have unfortunately terminated a job for whatever reason. You may be with a company that's getting ready to close its doors. Unfortunately, maybe the company has kicked you out the door. I don't know, I had a gentleman recently that was laid off unsuspectingly. He got the pink slip. He said, Tony, I don't know what to do. He hadn't even thought about rolling over his 401k. I said, the bad news is you just lost your job. The good news is now we can safeguard and strategize about your 401k, because prior to you getting laid off, you couldn't even touch that thing. So sometimes there is good news buried in the bad news, folks. Also, who can roll over? That would be somebody that's already turned 59 and a half. This is a key age. Most, I say most, 401ks, even if you're still working, listen closely. If you're over the age of 59 and a half and you're tired of risking all your hard-earned money and you don't have a game plan, you don't have any strategies, you don't have a personal fiduciary like us, you can roll that over, okay, in most cases. Obviously, if you're retired. But a lot of people think, well, I'll just leave it at the 401k. It's got low fees and I don't need to draw this thing out till I'm 70 and a half, do I? Folks, if you're already retired, let's talk. You don't want to leave that in the 401k without any proper planning associated with it. And finally, sometimes this happens. I had a gentleman in last week. He said, Tony, I don't know what's going on. Our employer terminated the plan. He'd never heard of such a thing. For some reason, this happens and there's nothing wrong with it, but a company, your employer, may just terminate the 401k plan or totally change everything. And sometimes there's a window where you can move that 401k out regardless of your age. So if you've recently experienced this at work and you think, gosh, maybe I can move my 401k plan, let us know and let us talk in person to review that 401k plan. Well, that was a mouthful, I know, but we've got to get to the Bible. So does the Bible have anything to say about 401k rollovers and rushing into financial decisions? Actually, it does, but first, I got to get me a cup of coffee. I'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a buyout? Has the company you work for recently moved or been acquired or closed its doors forever? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k to safer territory. Why continue to risk your hard-earned money when you don't have to? Let's meet in person today to discuss your retirement options. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your no-obligation appointment to meet with me in person. Do it today.
Worried about running out of money in retirement? For a limited time, 5-time author and retirement specialist Tony Walker is making available his latest book, Mailbox Money for Life. For your free copy, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Let's face it, the last thing you want in retirement is to be full of life and flat broke. I'm Tony Walker, and for the past 33 years, I've made it my life's mission to make certain that my clients don't go broke in retirement by providing mailbox money for life. Let me show you how easy it is to be worry-free in retirement by creating a guaranteed income you can never outlive. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started today.
Man, it's a good cup of coffee. I was recently speaking to someone about their station in life, and they were in their late 60s, and they were just sharing some of their regrets in life. I mean, let's face it, we all have got some regrets. And it got to me, and I started thinking about this and said, wait a minute, some of these regrets that we keep looking back on really are the effects of choices we have decided to make in life. And some of those choices have had a dramatic effect on our future. And unfortunately, many of these bad choices are a direct result of us being way too impatient. We mentioned earlier about the pitches you hear from the financial world in some of these dinner seminars. And if you listen closely, I know this because, again, many of you tell me about your experiences. Many of these advisors make everything seem so urgent, as if you don't act now, you're foolish or something. It's just obscene. So it's funny when you think about your 401k. Again, you've spent 30, 40 years investing in this savings tool, and now you're supposed to just turn over your money lickety-split to somebody that tells you to. My advice, don't be so impatient. Now, there's a great verse of Scripture that supports this truth, and it comes from our friend David, and it's in Psalms 52:9. So, Aaron, let's go to Psalms 52:9, and it basically simply says this: I will give thee thanks forever because thou hast done it, and I will wait on their name, for it is good. Now, that's pretty good truth. And then we see Watchman Nee. Hey, it's a great little devotional here. It's called A Table in the Wilderness. But anyway, Nee comments on this verse by saying the following: the test of time is sometimes the hardest test of all. And he goes on to say, yet only by learning to wait for God do we find ourselves involved in something really done by Him. Paul, he learned this truth in Romans 4:19, referring back to Abraham when he said Abraham was like 100 years old when God said, I'm going to allow you to have childbirth. I mean, think about the time he had to wait for this second child to come along. Paul even learned that he said, when I'm weak, I am strong. So we think about all of these key verses and you're saying, Tony, what does this have to do with my money? Well, these valuable truths that are shared in the Bible are trying to remind us that sometimes we must be more patient and rely on God's strength rather than our strength to figure all this stuff out. A very powerful verse I'll close with, which kind of sums up this whole thing on being faithful and allowing God to work, comes from Ephesians 2:8. You've heard this verse before. It simply says, for by grace you have been saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. Well, what about yourself? You're probably sitting there, Tony, oh, that sounds really good, but I got to do something with this 401k plan, and I'm so confused. I've been on the internet, I've been to dinner seminars, and I have no clue what I'm going to do with this 401k plan. And what I would say is relax, slow down a minute, and why don't you make the opportunity to yourself to come visit with me in person? There is absolutely no cost or obligation. It's real easy to do. All you got to do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Now, once you're at the website, you'll click on that Let's Get Started button, and something very simple is going to happen. Your information is confidentially sent to our offices. We will follow up with a phone call to schedule an appointment at either our Bowling Green or our Louisville, Kentucky offices. During that first appointment, all we're going to do is get to know your situation. I'm going to review confidentially all of your documents, and then we have a second appointment whereby we'll meet again, and I'll share my assessment and all of my findings with you. And here's the best part. There's no hurry. We're going to move at your speed, and we're going to make sure you're comfortable prior to rolling over your 401k in to the Worry-Free Retirement process. You have nothing to lose, and as they say, everything to gain. So again, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, and let's get started now. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's program. I've enjoyed being with you. You remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.
Thank you for watching the Worry-Free Retirement with Tony Walker. If you need a safe and simple game plan for your retirement, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and schedule a free, no-obligation meeting with Tony.